Hi guys, welcome to our first video on the portfolio review. Thank you so much for filling the form that we provided. And we have our first candidate, Ramya from Colorado. So she is a UX designer who is transitioning. And she has taken some classes, some certifications is in UX design, and now is in the midst of actually looking for that first, maybe like more real full-time job. She's been, it looks like she has some contracts, some real projects, but now she's ready to dive in. And from using her own words, her goal is, I'm going to quote here, since I'm new to the field, I would love feedback on whether my case studies clearly show my process and whether my portfolio reads as job ready for entry-level roles. So let's see if her portfolio is ready. And of course, the amount of feedback that we can be talking is huge, and we're trying to make it a somewhat concise video. So we'll be giving you the list of all the feedback, and in this video we'll just touch upon the most important one. So in our intro video, me and Silu divided different areas in this review, and I'll be taking this number 1, number 2. Silu will take this 4 in the middle, and we will wrap up with 7 and 8, kind of talking about the growth potential and storytelling. And before I dive into this first one, personal brand and identity, I wanted to have a quick walkthrough. Yeah, imagine I'm a hiring manager. I have to review 700 applications and click on 700 portfolios. And I'm clicking on Ramya's first. The first thing that comes to my mind is how simple, how well structured it is. And I definitely appreciate that she has this simple menu that will take me to all her projects, about, resume, beautifully done landing page. Here was her tagline, and something that I'm missing in most of the entry-level portfolios is that tagline. And we'll discuss whether this is the strongest tagline for Ramya's case or not, but the fact that it's there, the fact it's there even with her picture, warms my heart. I'm a little bit not confused, but I don't like the fact that she kind of like divides her client projects and personal projects. Especially, she only has one that stands out for me, but we can talk about it later. And then I'm scrolling here. I like the fact that she only has 4, I would assume, of her best projects here versus 10. So I appreciate this. I usually look at 1. So let's have a quick look. Starts with the visual. I love the fact that she starts with the final design. I love the fact that she gives us a summary quickly, the challenge, what problem she was trying to solve, the outcome. I'm missing here, ideally would be like real numbers, how many users signed up, real life numbers. But for now, in terms of just the structure, this is good. And usually in my first scroll, I'm just making sure that she passes the main checklist, problem definition, that she has the visual explorations. This is good. This is that 80% of designs that end up in trash, but it's interesting to see. She has the sketches, which I love, design iterations. Silu, I think you will talk more about it. But so far, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I have the design system here. I'm kind of missing how she arrived at this particular color set. But as a baseline, this is the person who understands, the components of the really basic design system. And I like this. I like this project. So my first pass is like super quick, right? About, I love the fact that she has an image. I'm drawn to this. I think it's a little bit too much info here. But my mind is drawn, when I look at her info, is that she is coming from the engineering background. And to me, likely at this point in 2026, I'll be hiring someone who can do the vibe coding. So to me, this candidate is actually very available. She's not just a designer, but she has the strong background. And I'm biased. I'm also coming from QA specifically, right, within the engineering. And I know that QA is really important in QA, basically testing, validating your own designs, and a huge part of our work as designers. So to me, while it's a little bit too much text here, but I'm drawn to her background. Resume, I do appreciate that it's everything here available. It's not huge document, lists the most important things. So in general, I like what I'm seeing here. Okay, so the first point is branding and identity. Asking the question, how would I remember Ramya, I don't know, a year from now? And I think after scrolling, one thing that is obvious about this candidate is that this is someone who, yeah, has a background in engineering, but also someone who is interested in designing for social change. And this is one of these unique portfolios of the entry-level designers where all these projects are tied by this one idea. And this is all about products for social change, whether it's grant applications or helping peace patrollers navigate better, right? Or public health research. This is all one unique theme. And I love this. And I think for this candidate, it can become its own thing, its own value prop. I love her images, how she shows herself. It's like more to the personality. Now I can see as a hiring manager what kind of possible personality I could be bringing to the team. And I love the fact that all the essentials are findable. Like I mentioned before, resume, about. If I scroll down to the bottom, will be her LinkedIn, where it's tied with her portfolio, with her resume, which I love. Quick way to contact. Now, for the areas to improve, the main important one for her branding, I think that tagline needs to be much stronger. This is very generic. I know she does touch upon research as her value prop, the positive change, but I think it needs to be emphasized even more. And I think for this candidate, three things that are really shining through is, like I mentioned, background in a master's degree, right? Is her how well executed her research projects are. So research, and then one more is that positive change. So I think if I were to rewrite this tagline, and I'll be using my notes here, but it would be around the phrase, for example, I spent 4 years testing software, finding every way it breaks. Now I design research-driven products that don't break for the people who need them most. So like something like this. And I'm not just taking it from my mind, I'm taking the phrase that she kind of used around breaking, how she, in her own words, tied her QA background. But I think something definitely needs to be more stronger here, and really, especially pointing out her background in computer science. Then the About Us page kind of talked about how that needs to be shorter, maybe just a couple bullet points. The fact that she starts with the Google certification reads to me that she's still a student. And I feel like to really level up this whole portfolio, she needs to get out of this mindset. She's not a student. This is real work. She's now a designer, kind of like fake it until you make it approach. I think listing her certifications, she does this really well on her resume. Here, it needs to be a really strong point why she is qualified to work in any startup or a bigger company. And then somewhat minor, but I do pay attention to this URL here, right? I think how to say but I think to have it more serious, right, to show you intention within design, I think to hiring manager would be nice if the candidate invests like some money into having her own URL, hosting the website somewhere that is not a framer. Again, this is a minor, this is not going to be like a showstopper for me, but like something to keep in mind. This maybe doesn't appear very professional. It does appear more like you're a student, again, studying. And I think for me, for the branding, this is kind of like the main feedback, is really focus on your strongest points. The second part is the visual identity and craft. It's around visual execution, consistency, attention to detail. I think overall, when it comes to this point, I feel like her website is very well structured. It's easy to find. I really love how she has lots of visuals inside of these projects. Some things to possibly fix would be some typos throughout. I would really encourage this candidate to run her copy by Claude, by ChatGPT, at least for the most important pages here.
Hello, thank you so much, Monica. That was really good. I totally agree with all of the points you mentioned. And looking at the part of, well, the design process, the design thinking, how you think, how you problem solve when nobody actually hands you the answer. So I think the answer to this question is, I think Ramya does a really good job on this. So I have all of her case studies like open side by side, and I go through this and I can clearly see how she thinks and how she goes about solving the
Mhm.
problem that she's given. And I think Ramya has really strong skills on this, and I really appreciate that. So, going through, for example, let's say this portfolio, for example, the one on building trust in I read this and I can see that her research skills is actually really,
I agree. Yeah.
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 I see how she framed the challenges, how she frames the problem, and showing her entire journey of the research on what she went about at each step to finding that solution, and also showcasing what her finding was, is actually really well done. Honestly, I really liked this case study. I was so impressed with the kind of research details that she did. And also the same for in this case study, I can see um, her decision making process. And also, I can see in this case study how she was able to pivot when she had to go from yeah, when when the
Mhm.
branding of the company changed and she pivoted to a no code platform, how she did that, it was really good. It was a really strong case study. And the same for this, I can see how she frames the decisions that she took, and she shows it through the prototype as well on like what she did. Like that's decision number one, decision number two. It's really her case studies very strong. I'm very much impressed with that. The
Mhm.
only thing that I would say in terms of like, she has a very good design thinking. The only thing for me, someone who's like trying to understand her brain, I think the only thing I would say is like, if all of these case studies had a consistent structure, it would be very easy for me to understand her brain even
Mhm.
faster. Just a tiny example would be each of the case in two case studies, I go on and see the title, the final image, and I start with the whole what the problem was, the journey very easily. But in some case studies, I will have to kind of do a second click
I've
to
noticed
go
that.
into
Yeah.
the case study. I feel like we can jump into. I think it's better to have that consistency in each case study, so that it's easier for me to understand your brain. And the other thing I would just mention is that she's like the animation she uses at certain times is really good, but sometimes it grabs too much of my attention. So I think maybe just use the animation where exactly it's needed, and frame all of the case study in a similar manner. I know each case studies are different, the design decisions, the process are different, but in terms of like using the text hierarchy and the layout in the website, I think that could be made consistent so that I can see how well she does, how brilliantly she thinks, even faster. The second part I'm looking at is the innovation and AI, like how she adapts to changing
Mhm.
tools. So in this one, I would say I think in this one I do see examples of her dealing with her. For example, we can see this case study where building trust in AI. I can see this. I can see that she's already very up to date with AI, and she's doing research around it, how people perceive AI, how they are such as context, such as health in this case study is very serious topic. So she's already done a lot of research into this. She knows how people behave around AI content. So I know that she has already stepped foot into the world of AI and she is up to date. But keeping up with like what's going on in the industry, that is one of the things we need to do is keep up with the industry. I think like one thing I would say here is like I can see that in the details of your case study that you're up to the trend, but it'd be nice to see like one quick, a very short case study, not even too long, of like you using AI in your designs so that it's just like right there
Mhm.
in the forefront.
Yeah. And one thing to add, how I mentioned when I first saw her portfolio, in my mind, the light bulb, oh, this is the technical person, and then I saw the background in computer systems, right? And for me, for example, if I need to like build the entire design process using more of vibe coding, right? I would have much hopes on her being able to do it. And yeah, I would agree with you, Silu, that as of right now, looking at this portfolio, I don't really have that reinsurance other than seeing the master's degree in the resume. So one thing to work on, yeah, 100% here, make it stronger.
So on the part four, from the part four of the frameworks regarding strategic and system thinking, can you scale? So in terms of this, I think Ramya has done a good job, given though, let's say, like, even though she hasn't had the chance to participate in a bigger team, I can see that she has collaborated with other researchers and UX lead designers. So I think that is a really good sign of her being a team player in terms of, at least in the design world. And with time, I think she will be able to collaborate very well with engineers and other team in the organization. And also, given that she already has a good background in technology, I think we'll really leverage her in the future to collaborate with other teams as well. And I can also see, in terms of scalability, I can see that she already has a good design system thinking as well, which we can see in I can see in one of her case study is, about the landing page for Scafina. I see that she pivoted when the pivot was needed, and she constructed a level of design system. So that is a really good way to go. The only thing I would say in terms of system thinking is and scalability would be, if I know it's still this is a big ask, but if we could see a little bit of what kind of business impact her designs had, would be nice to see. And I understand this kind of metrics is kind of hard to bring in, but even like one tiny metric, one tiny impact that it had, even if it's qualitative, doesn't have to be quantitative. It's nice if there is, but understandably, it's hard to get. So even if a qualitative impact, a business impact that it had in the company, it would be nice to see in those case studies. So looking at the sixth part of the framework around project selection and curation, like, do you know your best? Around this, I feel in terms of project diversity, I think Ramya has a diverse types of case study, also different types of clients as well, which is always a good sign on how much you can expand. And we can clearly see you have a very strong hold on working towards bringing positive social impacts. So that already, if somebody's looking for that specific person, like, you are already there. The only thing I would say around here is bringing in your best work first, because we know everybody has a very short attention span. Now we know this very well. So try to bring in your best work at first. And in this case, looking at all of your case studies, I would say bring in the Peace Patrollers case study at the top, because this is one of your very strong case study. It's driven by mobile first approach, which is very common nowadays. And you've also explained the process and showed all of your design decisions here very well with the prototype. So I would say bring this in first, and your second would be the research case study, because we can clearly see you have very strong research skills. And then in terms of like dividing your personal project and your client project, I would say we don't need to divide the personal and client project. You can actually put everything into one, put your personal project at the end, and maybe inside the project, just say that this is one of your personal project, which is good. And that also reduces the decision for whoever is viewing your portfolio to choose whether I want to see the personal project or the client project. And if you put your the best work up front, then that person will have the opportunity to look at your best work, your most strongest skill becomes more visible. So I think that is what I would say around the curation of selecting your projects.
Mm-hmm. Yes, still 100%. I would definitely agree with you on that separation. Something that stood out, like I pointed out as well, kind of like that division, personal, not personal. And to me, it's like, for example, your personal projects could be like amazing, right? And really sell you as the candidate. But as a manager, I'm like, oh, personal, I don't know, like someone is cooking this, I don't know, cakes and like selling them on Etsy, something not related to the design, and I would just not even look at it. But that could be the project that would actually get you the job. So, yeah, I would just blend all this creative soup in and let the manager decide, right? And have like less decisions to make. Awesome. So the seventh point in our framework is around storytelling and communication. And it's more like if you look on someone's portfolio, do you see a story? And this is definitely the portfolio where I am seeing the story, starting with the greeting of the person, right? Who she is. And then like here's the projects that I worked on. And I think it's very strong in narrative. And also, I really love how this announcement feels like for each project is kind of like this story shaped headings. It's almost like you're reading a newspaper. It's like, yeah, empowering peace controllers, It's like, I love the snippets, and it makes me kind of like helps me scan the websites really quick. I love this one. And I also love her honest presentations. Like once you dig in the projects, how she like sharing the challenges and stuff. And this is all speaking to her kind of like ability to be vulnerable, right? And having tough conversations, which I love and appreciate, people like this on my team. So I love this one. Some areas to improve. Well, first off, I would definitely recommend passing all the copy, everything on this website through the text editor. So maybe like through AI, Claude, at least the main projects, proofreading everything here. It's like super minor, but I think overall, the less mistypos you have here, the better. And now we all have all these tools to do this audits relatively quick. So that's kind of like one. Another one is like we already pointed out, but the fact that some projects, for example, this one, I have to click twice to get to the actual story. And that's sort of around the storytelling. I would prefer my journey not to be interrupted. And then I've noticed in general, there's a trend, especially as AI is picking up, for designers who are looking for a job recording videos as their cover letters and sending to the hiring managers, recording videos and hosting them here about them or about the projects. And I think video, even 2-minute video around one of your projects, for example, research, I think this one would be curious for me as a hiring manager to see, assess your public speaking skills, in general, how you present your designs, but also a little bit personality. And one kind of idea that I had when I was scanning this one, just because your storyline is could be, if you decide, around social change, right? This is like one really strong point that I'm seeing. So here, imagine as a story, right? Something like how I make design in blah blah blah. In this case, it's like education, right? This one could be how I make change in peacemaking or like social justice or whatever. Here is like clear the public sector. So when I'm scanning, your portfolio, the story is like, hey, I believe in social change. I worked in education and all these sectors. It's almost like you were going beyond these projects, right, into this general statement. It's like, yeah, I've worked in this and this sectors, and it's like speaking to you being a versatile designer, which I love. So that's kind of like wrapping up that number 7 around communication and storytelling. But I think, again, it's very strong as it is right now. And the 8th point is around growth and potential. This is more me, hiring manager, kind of knowing or wanting to know how this person envisions themselves in like 5 years from now. Either more like leadership skills, would they prefer to more like dig deeper, right, and expand this way? And I really appreciate this candidate, like her vulnerability, her honesty. This is awesome traits to have. I think one thing Ramya needs to decide is around her own personal story and where she would love to grow. Is it going to be using her master's degree in technical background, right, and more like towards vibe coding with AI, this sort of skills, or is it more research driven? And then maybe it could be even close to PM, right? That trajectory, like she's moving towards the product, just because research is such a huge part of this product experience. Stuff like this, and I haven't like looking at this, I'm not sure, right? And then going to her about us page. So it's also like that direction is like in 5 years from now, or like this is the where I'm going is not quite clear, you know. Um, and also, you know, I would go bolder. Like we have a very strong candidate, and here being appearing more confident. You know, it's like actively seeking opportunities to apply your skills, but it's more like, hey, you know, I have amazing portfolio. I'm gonna be personally looking for the companies who share my values of blah 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 and privacy, right? And like sustainability. So it's kind of like you appear stronger as a candidate. You know your value. Um, and I think, yeah, like I think that's sort of picking your line. We kind of talked about, you know, don't sell yourself short, you know your price.
100% agree on that. Yes, do not you have your strong skills and bring it to the front line and front page.
Yeah. And Silu, yeah, I think like wrapping up our review, and we'll definitely have the a doc with more like a checklist, more feedback. But I think you would be curious to list our top 3 recommendations, right? The actionable steps that she could take to make her portfolio better. And I can start with
Mhm.
my top. So my top number one is work on your tagline, work on your story, right? And again, it's whatever you decide, right? The engineering or the research, in addition to the positive change, right? So, like I mentioned before, it really stressed out that you are a research driven problem solver, right? That you have background in technology and that your focus is the social change. So these 3 things, you might be able to prioritize one over the other, but I think that's what I'm looking into this tagline, and especially on the about us page, right? Making shorter, make it concise, make it about this 3 points. Um, and then, so the second point is around more visual, kind of like alignment, how you present your brand. And like we talked about having the audit of all grammar on this website, right? Silu talked about having alignment in how you present your projects. This is all small details, but in design, when it comes to design, they make that's what creates that first impression, right? Um, and then the third point is more going above and beyond, right? Like I mentioned, the video. So imagine having one strong project, for example, this one, where you present what you did in a very concise way. That will help us assess also your presentation skill and more of your personality. So I think that's, yeah, top 3 from me, and then I'm curious to hear top 3 from you, Silu.
From my side, my top three would be, so number one is around your case studies. Your case studies are very important. So I think the first one is to have consistency in all of your case study, so that when we look at it, we don't have to rewire our brain in every single case study. Like making it consistent, bringing out a good story in your case study. They are already very strong because I've read it. But it's just that when we parse it, let's make it easy to parse as well, and making sure animations are used strategically. So
Mhm.
I think she can do that. My second point is again, it's also about case study, but like this is more about being up to date in the with the trends, which I know she is, and I know that she already know. Everybody already knows about all the AI tools, but I think it's good to have it in your portfolio, just like one case study, a very tiny one, of you using, one of the AI design tools, and it could be just like any kind of like, it could be another of your passion project, but around AI design tools, how you use it, how you strategically think on like what AI gives you and what design decisions you make. So a very small case study on that would be helpful. And my third point is how I think like would be to bring in your best skill on the on the front line, on the front of the page. Like, I think that would be my top three. Yes, the last one being you have your strong skills, bring those strong skills in front of the page, bring the most strongest case study at the top of the line. Yes, those are my top three.
I love it. Yeah. And then kind of like, I think one point that goes without saying, that whenever you're done with your revisions, then you align your resume as well, right? Like the tagline that you have front and center there needs to be on that resume as well, right? Like how you present, the
Yeah.
colors you use on the website is the same as well. And going back to her original question, is her portfolio ready? I think the answer, like from both of us, yes, it's 100%. Like it is good as it is. It work, and thank you so much for submitting. She's our first victim, so to speak, of our critical eye. And hopefully we're not too harsh. So I'm excited about the other reviews that we'll have next week.